The Roman Empire produced leaders of every kind: military strategists, skilled politicians, and figures who turned power into spectacle. Some were remembered for their discipline, others for their excess. Among them were men whose wealth, ambition, and desire for recognition set them apart. These were men who understood not only politics, but the power of personality. While our main contenders for the title of emperor are coming up, the most striking parallel for a wealthy real estate mogul with immense political ambition wasn't an emperor at all. He was a powerhouse of the Roman Republic named Marcus Licinius Crassus. Think of Crassus as the Donald Trump of his day, and the comparison is uncanny. First, there's the real estate empire. According to Plutarch, Crassus created Rome's first private fire brigade. His most famous tactic was a bit of ruthless genius. He would rush to a burning building, but instead of putting out the fire, he'd make the desperate owner a ridiculously low offer to buy the property. If they accepted, he'd order his men to save it. If they refused, he'd let it burn. He bought low, built high, and soon owned vast swathes of the city. But it wasn't just that. Like many modern tycoons, his business practices were often seen as predatory. He acquired much property during Sulla's proscriptions, snapping up the estates of citizens who were declared enemies of the state for a fraction of their value. And most importantly, Crassus understood how to convert wealth into political power. He used his vast fortune to create a network of patronage, lending money to influential senators and bankrolling the careers of ambitious young politicians, most notably a young Julius Caesar. By holding their debts, he held their loyalty. He ultimately died in 53 BC in a disastrous campaign against Parthia, a venture driven by his desire for military glory to match his political rivals. So you have a figure famous for his extreme wealth, a real estate empire, and using his fortune to dominate the political landscape. But Crassus was never an emperor. To find an emperor with the right blend of characteristics, we need to look at one of the most famous and infamous names in Roman history, Nero. The real Nero is a far more complex and fitting comparison. Nero was a showman and a populist. He saw politics as a form of show business. He loved to race chariots, sing, and act on stage. The Roman elite was scandalized, but the common people loved it. As Tacitus records, Nero promised that his private affairs and the affairs of the state would be kept separate, and that he would govern in the spirit of Augustus.
Nero outlined his vision for a principate, designed to avoid the recent sources of unrest, saying, "I will not sit in judgment over every case, nor enclose accuser and accused together in the same house, allowing a few influential people to dominate. Under my roof there will be no avenue for corruption, and there will be a clear separation between the palace and the state. Let the Senate retain its ancient rights. Let Italy and the provinces present their cases before the consuls, who will offer them audience before the Senate."
This message resonated with the populace tired of the secretive dealings of the elite. Next, the love for big flashy projects. After the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, Nero began construction on his magnificent palace, the Domus Aurea, or Golden House. It was a sprawling complex with a colossal statue of himself and rooms decorated with gold. The project was so audacious that the historian Suetonius recorded Nero's reaction upon its completion.
When this elaborate palace was finally completed and dedicated, he deigned to offer nothing more than this modest approval, saying, "I am at last beginning to be housed like a human being."
The Golden House was the Trump Tower of its day. This extravagant spending made Nero a deeply polarizing figure. The people often adored him, but the Senate despised him. They saw him as a reckless, narcissistic tyrant. Suetonius also captured his attitude towards money perfectly.
"There is no other way of enjoying riches and money than by riotous extravagance," declaring that only stingy and miserly fellows kept a correct account of what they spent.
So, Nero is clearly a top contender, but he has some serious competition from another emperor who took the idea of being a showman to a whole new level. We are talking about Emperor Commodus. He was the son of the wise philosopher emperor Marcus Aurelius, but he couldn't have been more different. Commodus craved the roar of the crowd, and his ultimate stage was the floor of the Colosseum itself. The Roman elite was horrified, but many of the common people ate it up. The historian Cassius Dio, who was a senator at the time, described the scene.
He descended to the arena from his place above and cut down all the domestic animals that approached him, and some also that were led up to him or were brought before him in nets. He also killed a tiger, a hippopotamus, and an elephant. Having performed these exploits, he would retire, but later, after luncheon, would fight as a gladiator. The form of contest that he practiced and the armor that he used were those of the secutores, as they were called. He held the shield in his right hand and the wooden sword in his left, and indeed took great pride in the fact that he was left-handed. The silly people, of course, were delighted at this.
This captures that deep divide between the establishment and the base perfectly. And if you thought Nero was egotistical, Commodus took personal branding to an extreme. He then renamed Rome to Colonia Commodiana and renamed the months after himself. He also declared himself the reincarnation of Hercules. The historian Herodian wrote about this transformation.
He laid aside the imperial and Roman garb and took up the lion's skin and club. He ordered that he should be called not Commodus, son of Marcus, but Hercules, son of Zeus.
So, who is the better match? You have Nero, the populist performer and master builder, and you have Commodus, the ultimate showman. Both were defined by their immense egos, their populist appeal, and the way they used spectacle to maintain their power. What do you think? Was the closest figure the Tycoon Crassus, the builder Nero, or the gladiator Commodus? Let me know your choice in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into history. Special thanks to my Patreon members. Your support makes all of this possible.